We are live. Are we live? Can you see me? Am I live? I've got a new light. It's a bit glaring, I know. I'm going to get a background as well, but it is what it is. I've done my best. I'm trying to improve. I'm trying to improve the look of the channel. This is, it's a bit over. You guys can see me, right? Am I coming through loud and clear? Waiting for an answer because at the minute I'm not entirely sure. DJ's answer's a bit. Oh, there was fine. Okay, I'm coming through loud and clear. Okay, that's good. Yeah, Lorne, good to see. I seen you now dance. Yeah, Lorne, I'm assuming you probably haven't seen Scream 5, or it's just called Scream now. Don't mention the 5. They don't like it. They don't like mentioning the numbers. It's just Scream now. At some point, because I distinctly remember seeing the number 5. Oh, you've just seen it. Okay, I will be spoiling this film, DJ. Yeah, I will be. I will be spoiling this film big time. So sure, so you have seen it, Lord. Okay. Yeah. So they seem to have done away with the number 5 at some point. I distinctly remember seeing the number 5 in the promotion up until about 2 months ago, and then they went away. And all of a sudden the number 5 was gone, and I was a little bit. And when you watch the film, it all becomes clear why they've done away with the number 5. But Mandela effect, yeah, I've mentioned that before actually, DJ, about the Mandela effect. Yeah, it's happened to me a few times. Screen 22, it's like I watch one of these dons. Yeah, it's Darren. What's up, man? Seen you for a while. Hey guys, not bad spoilers. Yeah, I will be spoiling this film at some point. Maybe not at the very beginning, but I'm just going to be going through the film, scene, not literally scene by scene, but going through the majority of like the sort of major scenes and just like giving a rundown. And it kind of is very similar to the original film with some of the scenes. It's there are certain scenes where you just think, yeah, this is just like a rehash of the original film or Scream 2, which I haven't got a problem with. It is what it is. Just out the gate, I enjoyed this film. It's not as good as Scream 1. It's not as good as Scream 2 in my opinion, but I would certainly put it ahead of 4 and 3. But you know what? So is Matthew. No, he's not. No, he's dead. He's dead. He's dead. He's dead, DJ. So yeah, let's just get right into it anyway. I mean, this film is. Before going into this film, you've got 2011. This is 11. Okay, 10 years in terms of filming, but in terms of this will go down in history as a 2022 film. 2011 was the last film. So in terms of like chronology, this is 11 years after the original film. And with a movie franchise like Scream, Dr. C, what's up, man? New to the channel. Good to see you on board, man. The final act was the worst. It's very similar to the original. I wouldn't say it's the worst per se, but yeah, I mean, it is quite similar to the first film, which obviously the first film is the best in my opinion, but this is kind of very similar, I suppose. And I've just listened to me. Yeah, okay, yeah. I'm trying. The comments are coming too thick and fast now, so I'm trying to I want to address all this stuff without sort of deviating away from like the plot. I'll try and talk a bit and then go back to the comments. I'm not used to having comments on my live streams too often. But the opening scene is basically, yeah, you got Tara. I'm not quite sure how you pronounce it. This is the most openly obvious reference to the original film in terms of opening movie scenes since the first film. I mean, Scream 2, Scream 3, Scream 4, they always have like what they would like to think iconic opening scene. I would say they're all iconic. I'd say Drew Barrymore's is the only iconic opening scene. This comes close to trying to recreate that scene. And there's a really, whether it's intentional, I think it probably is. The opening scene is literally her on her smartphone and the landline rings and she just ignores it. And that has to be intentional. That has to be a play on modern society and, like, you know, this culture of, you know, teenagers, Gen Z, millennials to a point, you know, whereas in the first film, Drew Barrymore, obviously, she hasn't got a smartphone. The landline rings, she answers it. In this film, no. Landline, who the fuck answers a landline? I'm on my smartphone. It's clear. She obviously clearly thinks that it's not for her. I think that's the point the film's trying to make. Why would somebody be trying to contact her on a landline? She's like, what, 17, 18? She obviously thinks she says it's a mum. So obviously, yeah, who else would be trying to contact me on a landline apart from my mother? Or just like some of that like old person. Which is, it's like it's a little nod to like the new generation. It would have been relevant in 2011 as well. But, you know, it's even more so in 2021, 2022. And then also we get into the opening scene where, you know, Ghostface reveals himself through, you know, the voice modification. But at the very beginning, the very first sentence, the very first word out of his mouth, it sounds like just like a normal human, like a normal guy. And you do think, is this, and for the first few sentences, you think, is this just, you're trying to think, it sounds slightly off from the original. And the voices in the sequels, so you're thinking, is this just a guy, a perfectly innocent guy with just like a voice that sounds very similar to, like, you know, Ghostface? But obviously, you know, as the scene plays out, it becomes clear, you know, this is not just a random guy. This is Ghostface. And I like the way they did that. I don't know, again, whether that was intentional. I don't know. Whether it just seemed, the opening couple of sentences seemed like a normal man. And then it just seemed to change as the conversation went on. Now, I don't know whether that was intentional, whether that's just my mind playing tricks on me. It just didn't seem as obvious. And I really liked the way they did that. Going into the scene, obviously, where Ghostface enters the house, you've got, and I knew this would be a thing with, you know, coming into 2022 now, Scream 4 is 11 years old, new technology, and Scream's always been a franchise that has embraced, you know, new technology and where smartphones go. And obviously, you know, the fact that the smartphone controls the entire house security, so she's locking the house with her phone. But obviously, Ghostface he says he's cloned Amber's phone, who's her friend who she's talking to, before she gets attacked. So obviously it makes sense that he's cloned her phone as well. And I don't really know how cloning phones works. They say he says he's cloned her phone. That means nothing to me. I'm not very savvy when it comes to technology, but I can only assume that he's somehow cloned her phone, so he can override her instructions. So she's trying to lock the house, he's unlocking the house, and obviously it plays out like that. Then obviously the question, it's the same old, you know, it's, you know, it's like, it's very similar to the first film, where he asks, you know, horror movie questions, and he asks her what her favorite horror film is. And rather than saying Halloween, or it's Halloween or Friday the 13th, that Drew Barrymore says, I can't remember, but she says The Babadook, which obviously is a lot more of a modern take on that sort of answer. A film I fucking despise, by the way. Hate that film. But yeah, obviously, this kind of like triggers. I don't want to use modern technology. It triggers Ghostface, and he's like, why don't you like stab and some of the old school horror films. But anyway, yeah. So he breaks in. There's the usual sort of like scuffle. He looks slightly inept at times, that's just the Ghostface way. She gets stabbed multiple times, and you think that's going to be it. She gets pretty much. He breaks a leg. He stabs her multiple times, and if this had been the first film, yeah, she would have been offed. But this, and I don't know whether this plays. I mean, obviously, the way the film plays out, this plays into why she doesn't die. But she's very young. She's a lot younger than Drew Barrymore was in Scream 1. She's literally a child. She looks like 16, 17. So probably plays into why she wasn't like just killed off. But in terms of the opening scene, because Scream is known for its iconic opening sequences. It's a bit like Final Destination. It plays heavily on its opening 10-minute scenes and how they play out in the film. I mean, this is not up to the level of the original Scream. I mean, is it better than Part 4? Yeah, definitely. Part 4 was just went too far into the sort of, metaverse. It was just too silly. This film does go quite meta later on, but in terms of like staying fairly realistic, this does a better job than Part 4. And yeah, Part 3 and Part 2. Part 3, I can't even remember the opening of Part 3. But in terms of like, does it set up a suspenseful film? Yeah, it does do the job, but this is not on the level of Wes Craven in Part 1. Not. It's just lacking. It's lacking a certain flair. It's lacking a certain magic. It's like it is like a dime store Wes Craven opening. It's trying too hard, and maybe that's a problem with the film going forward. I don't want to like hate on the. I mean, like I say, this film is a film I think is an enjoyable film. Going forward, though, that there are elements in the film which I do think are kind of like a little bit try hard, if that makes sense. I do think that. Dan's in the chat. What's up, Dan? I'll just go back to the chat a minute. Lorne says, of course, it makes no sense that she gets like, yeah. I mean, you do have to suspend belief at times with this film. It's like any. I mean, this is a film that is set in a fairly built-up town. This is set. I'm assuming this is California because Sam and Richie. We'll get into this anyway because yeah. I wish my birth was mad at this point. So yeah. Cheers, Dan. Nice one for that. Yeah. So once the opening scene's played out, we cut to Modesto, California, where it's Sam, who is the sister of Tara, who's been attacked, and we discover that in a phone call, and we meet her boyfriend Richie. Now, just to put into the context, and I'm going to jump forward a little bit, but Woodsboro is California, okay? And we established that Woodsboro is not that far from Modesto. Going by events further on in the film, which will make sense in terms of like, people who may possibly be the killer, who possibly are the killer later on in the film. But Modesto, where Richie and Sam are, isn't that far from Woodsboro. At the beginning of the film, I didn't know. I had no idea. I had to confess, before the film started, I was racking my brain thinking, is Woodsboro in California? I couldn't remember if they'd ever like, have they ever like said that Woodsboro's in California? Because I honestly cannot remember. They probably have, but so yeah, basically Modesta, where Sam and Richie were, is not a great distance from Woodsboro. That's much as we can gather from like later on in the film. Sean's in the chat. What's up, man? This is DP123 over. What's up, Sean? Nice to see you on board. That's it. It's not high bar, but I'm pretty sure this moment in sequels. Yeah, I would agree with up apart from 2, because 2's more of a nostalgia thing. 3, obviously, that could be nostalgia, but 3 was just garbage. Going back to the movie, I had made notes. Halloween Kills, I did not make notes because I watched the film on the cinema and immediately went home and live streamed it. So I watched it twice. This is different. Obviously, I've watched the film, come home, had a few drinks, made notes, and I'm just trying to sort of, get everything back together in terms of the film. But yeah, the Sam and Richie introduction. Does anybody think that Richie is just like a dead ringer for like a Joshua Jackson? Joshua Jackson from Urban Legend and oh my god, what's that show he's in? What's that really cheesy late 90s show? Dawson's Creek. Richie just to me was a dead ringer for Joshua Jackson, and I really like Richie. I think Richie in this film he's like one of the standouts. He's funny, he's witty. I mean, and you're constantly questioning, could he be the killer? Because when a character like that throws you off, you kind of like thinking, no. Scream's always done a good job of confusing me, like up until the end, as who the killer is. This is the first film, it's the first Scream film, I think, where I've kind of acknowledged, not spoiling nothing yet, but I think I've kind of like acknowledged, yes, I think I've spotted the killer, or killers, not spoiling nothing yet. Ben's in the chat. What's up, man? His name is Pacey. Oh, that's it. Yeah. I just think that he really, really reminds me of Joshua Jackson, Pacey and whoever this character was in Urban Legend. And I'd say I really like the character. I think they nailed the casting of him. I think it was so good. Yeah. Then we get this really, really strange introduction of Sam's dad being Billy, and we get this sort of like mirror image of Billy, and it's Skeet Ulrich, but it's Skeet. This is such a strange one. Maybe you guys in the chat can help me out here. It looks like it's obviously Skeet Ulrich, but he's got what Skeet Ulrich was wearing in Scream, but he looks way older, and was that intentional? It's clearly not. It's not Skeet Ulrich from Scream '96. This is a very much older Skeet Ulrich, but with the same hairstyle, which I know he doesn't have anymore. With the white t-shirt, it just seemed like a really, really sort of. Could they have not like de-aged? It just seemed like very, very weird. I don't really understand why they did that. I mean, either don't show him, or de-age him properly, and let's say a Billy from 1996. Billy died in 96, so why are we seeing a Billy who looks about 40? It just looks really, really off. Yeah, that made no sense to me. I mean, I don't really know why you have to even bring Billy back in a flashback. Bring him back, make him look like Billy from 1996, not Billy from 2015 or something. It just looks odd. Billy died, so why would he look older? And you've given him the old hairstyle, so clearly you want him to look like the 96 Billy. You give him the white t-shirt. It was just a really, really, really strange sort of, I thought it was a strange decision. Let's go back to the comment. That's the kid pretty obvious. I thought they would do some crazy thing, Gail to kill it. Yeah. Yeah, spoiler alert, Gail's not the killer. But you guys have all seen the film anyway, so how could Ben have thought all these? Yeah, I mean, that was the thing that she's so doing the maths, she would have had to have been at least 25. Now, I don't want to go too deep into it like a slasher film, but the girl, Tara, is meant to be 5 years younger than Sam. Tara looked to me to be about 16, which makes Sam 21. Billy died in 1986. So for Billy to be the father, she'd have to be, Tara would have to be 20, at least 21. Tara looks like a little girl. So that's just a complete fuck up. Yeah, they really, I mean, you know, most people aren't going to care. I just, looking at that, I was like, this doesn't make any sense. At some point, I was thinking, so did Billy not die then? Did Billy survive? Because I was doing the maths, just thinking, Billy's like died in '96. This doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And ghosts don't age. Exactly, yeah. Billy does. Billy aged horrendously. Billy looks as old as I do. And I think Skeezer Lutz is like 52 or something. He's really old. By, most people's standards. Do for the count Scream 6. If Scream 6 gets commissioned. Okay, where are we up to now? Yeah, Dewey's introduction. Yeah, Dewey, obviously, the first of the legacy characters to be introduced. He's living in some like caravans, like a trailer park. Obviously in Woodsboro. He didn't move far, but obviously he's just like he drinks now. He's given up the sheriff's job, and I don't mind seeing Dewey back. The fact that he's watching Gail on the TV, she's obviously still a big thing. Yeah, I mean, this scene was fan service to the extreme, and I could have done without the scene. It was a setup to bring him back into the fold. Really, Sam and Richie come to see him to try and convince him, to investigate the killer, and yeah, it's just fan service. It's just set up. I get that, but yeah, I could have done that. I mean, really, Dewey, apart from like one scene, really, he wasn't really necessary to the film. Yeah, going on, and then we go to, oh yes, sorry. Then we go to the killing, a completely random killing. Apparently, it was Stu's nephew. He's like the douchebag guy in the bar who's like threatening the kids and that, and he just dies. That death really, really made no sense to me at all. I understand the plot line is everybody has a connection to what's gone on in the past, and his connection was he was Stu's nephew. I mean, okay. I mean, he looked a bit old. Maybe not too old to be Stu's nephew, but looked like fairly old to me. It just seemed like a killing for a killing's sake, and it wasn't even it wasn't bad, but there was certainly better killings in the film. Yeah, definitely a couple coming up. And then this is one of my favorite scenes. It's a little bit cheesy in the way they went about it, but for me it kind of reminds me of Scream 2, the classroom scene, where they're talking about how the plot for a sequel goes. Everyone remembers the scene where Randy, he starts talking about, you've got to know the rules of a slasher film, and then they start arguing, and people say, oh, Godfather Part 2 is the only good sequel, and someone says Terminator 2. This is very reminiscent of that. It takes place in Mindy and Chad's home, and obviously Dewey turns up with Sam and Richie, and they're trying to establish the killer. And obviously they're all sat around, and basically she accuses saying one of you is the killer, or maybe two. And obviously, well, she went wrong, you know what I mean? But it's an interesting the way that the scene plays out. It's it kind of a play on the original on Scream 2, but it very much takes place in 2021, and there's a lot of use of like modern terminology, and it's very very nudge nudge wink wink to the audience, and that plays into a lot more in the final scenes. But yeah, I enjoy that scene. I mean, it's very much in your face. It's if you know, it's anyone in the horror community will look and go, yeah. Anybody who's not in the horror community maybe watch the film and just think, what the hell is this? Because like I was going to take my son to watch it. He's not seen any of the first 4 Scream films, and I just said, I don't think you'd like it. And watching this film, yeah, he wouldn't have a lot of the stuff would have gone right over his head as a Gen Z, as a very young Gen Z. A lot of this stuff is kind of like aimed at millennials and like very, very late Gen Xers and very, very young Gen Zs. But yeah, it's yeah, maybe a little bit in your face, a little bit, but I certainly, I enjoyed it. What I mean, going after that, it's obviously then it's a case of, well, we need to wipe out a few of the possible suspects, and obviously we've got to keep that kill count up. And then obviously we jump to Sheriff Judy and Wes, the son, who's like obviously at this point is going to be a suspect. Lon says, it sure as hell was named of this Gen Xer. Yeah. Yeah. Well, to be honest, I never thought it would be Lon. Yeah, and then we jump to obviously Judy and Wes's death, which, spoiler alert, obviously this is way beyond the point of spoilers. So yeah, so Wes is obviously one of the main, he's one of the the in crowd of Sam and Tara. So obviously he's going to be like one of the main suspects. So this is the point where they start having to up the kill count, kill off a few people who may be considered suspects. And you've got Sheriff Judy, who obviously she took the role of Dewey. She's a bit of a Karen. She's a bit annoying. Obviously, because before this scene, it set up him as a possible murder suspect, and obviously when the scene plays out, that's done and dusted. Judy dies a pretty horrific death on a doorstep in broad daylight, even though she called the cops, who said they were on the way, and yet Ghostface had the chance to kill her and then kill Wes. And he'd had a shower, he dragged himself off, he was about to get changed, and Ghostface had all this time to just basically, torment him and I will say, really nice death. Knife through the right through the neck, in one end out the other. Really, really nice effect. I mean, probably I would say one of the best 2 deaths in the film. Really, really, really effective. Looks really, really good. But yeah, so he was out the equation. And then obviously we jump to the hospital scene, because obviously Tara, whatever. She's obviously still in hospital, and Ghostface has made threats to go back. At this point, Gail's turned up, and she turns up at the hospital with Dewey and Sam and Richie. And it's at this point where they kind of play their hand a little bit, because I don't know whether you guys watching, if you've seen the film, I'm sure Ghostface attacks. Does he? I think he attacks Sam, and she holds him off, and then Richie turns up, and he attacks Richie, and he knocks him out, but just leaves him, and turns his attention back to. Oh no, sorry, Tara. It's Tara. So he's attacking Tara. Richie turns up. He attacks Richie. Richie gets knocked out, and he just leaves Richie and turns his attention back to Tara. Goes after Tara, and then Gail turns up with so Dewey turns up with Sam, My God. Yeah, so Dewey turns up with Sam, shoots Ghostface. They all run off. Ghostface is down. There's a scuffle between Dewey and Ghostface, and then Dewey shoots Ghostface like 3 times. And as they're going away, which is a stupid thing to do, Dewey, knowing what Ghostface in the past is capable of, just walks away with Sam and Richie, like, just shoot him in the head now. Clearly, just shoot him in the head. You know what he's capable of. They go away to the lift, and it's at this point, and there's going to be a spoiler now, at this point, as they're all walking away or getting dragged away, Richie looks at Ghostface with a look of concern on his eyes. Whether that was intentional, it must have been intentional. You know, if I can spot it, it must have been intentional, because I'm pretty clueless when it comes to spotting subtle winks and nods to the audience. But Richie looks at Ghostface in a way that says, "Oh shit, this has gone south." And it's at that point, yeah, spoiler alert, Richie's one of the killers. So they're walking away, and then they go to the lift. The lift closes, and Dewey decides it's not over until you shoot him in the head. Walks back. Ghostface lying there. Loads up his gun. Goes to shoot him in the head. Ghostface comes alive. Stabs Dewey multiple times. Dewey's dead for good this time. Body bag, everything. Yeah, okay, fine. I'm glad they've killed Dewey. You know, they needed to kill. A lot of the people in the chat and a lot of people, in the community, we're all saying he needs to either make one of the legacy characters a killer, or you need to kill one of the legacy characters off, or more than one. Well, Dewey's killed off. The one character I was expecting to be killed off, to be fair. I never thought for a minute they'd go with a legacy character as a killer. They don't. Spoiler alert. Yeah, but I thoroughly expected Dewey or Gale to be killed off in this film. It was never going to be Sydney, not in a million years. Yeah, so Dewey's killed off. And obviously, at this point, I'm thinking, yeah, Richie's definitely a potential killer. It's just the look he gave. The look he gave, it was just so crystal clear for me. But at the same time, I was kind of thinking, are they clever enough to, like, just this subtle nod, and then they're gonna do a 180 and it's not even him? But I was still fairly confident. Yeah, one of the characters who's very underused, who I thought could potentially be the killer. We're going to move forward now. Once the hospital scene's out the way, and Sam tries to leave with Tara and Richie and leave Woodsboro, and then they have to go back because of situations. But the character Liv, who was like the love interest of Chad, who, yeah, I barely remember his name. She dies, in the just before the final, just before the finale, and I was like, totally missed her death. Maybe I got sidetracked. I was like, where did she go? She must have been shot. But because she was such an underused character, I was kind of like thinking, oh, she could be the female, villain. We've got the male. We've established now, yeah, Richie's the male killer. We've got a female killer. I thought Liv potentially, because she just seems to have such an underused role, a bit like Billy's mom. It's mom. Why am I saying mom like an American? Like Billy's mum in Scream 2. Like, you don't really see that much of it, but she turns out to be the killer. Like Liv, you barely really see her in the film. So I was thinking, oh, she could potentially be the killer. And they were really playing up the killer whose name escapes me. Who's the female killer in the film? I've totally forgotten. Amber. So they totally play up Amber being the killer potentially, and they totally play up Chad's sister. Is it Judy? Is Judy Chad's sister? they totally play up them potentially being the killers when they go into the basement to get beers, and they both play off the role of being a killer, like really obviously, like, oh, I could be the killer, I could be the killer, and then Liv does it later on, and you're like, why would people behave like this in these circumstances? Nobody would be behaving like this in these circumstances. Which it was just so. It's Scream. I accept that, but it just seemed too much. It just seemed too in your face. Like they could be, yeah, okay, we get it. Anyone can be the killer. You don't have to shove it down our throats. It just seems so silly. And then obviously, Chad is attacked outside. Literally within 30 seconds of a major party going on. They used to, what the good thing about I think a lot of us in the community have complained about the smartphones being the downside of modern horror, and it is, because how do you justify a horror film? Everybody's connected to the internet and they can just phone somebody immediately, and the whole zero signal argument is going to become pretty irrelevant in the next 10, 20 years, probably. Certainly irrelevant in a town like Woodsboro, which is obviously a major town in a major state. But there is potential for good with smartphones, and it's shown a few times. A film which I've not yet talked about, which I probably might do a review of, is a film called, I think it's called See For Me, which is a new horror film where they basically use an app where, I'm going off topic slightly, but it's I'm just trying to talk about how smartphones can be good for horror films, in terms of See For Me is a film where a blind woman uses an app on a phone, and a person hundreds of miles away it's basically her eyes and ears, or eyes at least, and they've used that technology and turned it into a horror movie. And it's a bit like in Scream 5, the whole idea when where Chad goes outside, and it's an app where it's find me or something. It's if you connect to someone, where they are on the map, and he moves closer to her and she moves closer to him, and you have the whole beeping. So it's very much like reminiscent of Aliens, with where Ripley's looking for Newt, and you've got that element of danger. Smartphones probably in the long run are probably going to damage modern horror films, but you can use them in some respects in a good way. Like the beginning of the film, obviously, using a smartphone to lock the doors. But anyway, basically Chad dies. I think he dies anyway. Does he die? Does Chad die? I'm not entirely sure. Does Chad die, or is he in a hospital at the end? Because I seem to remember there's a scene where she waves at him. I think Sam waves at someone, say, "Are you okay?" And it might be Chad, but I'm not entirely sure, because he just gets stabbed and then we don't see him. Before I go to the final sort of showdown, let's just go to the chat. Dr. C. The ribs will be broken away and be out of breath. Yeah, definitely. It's best not to look too much into these things sometimes. Dan says, I dig out that people excuse it because you had a bad leg. Yeah. Even with a vest, 3 close shots would put him. Yeah. I mean, I was thinking that. I was like, when he gets shot, well, that's the thing now, isn't it? It's not even him. It's Amber who gets shot, because Richie's watching it. So Amber gets shot 3 times, even with a bulletproof vest on. Yeah, it's still going to be pretty bad. I've totally missed the chat when I've been talking, but yeah, Lord, that's always the issue with the Scream films. You've got 2 killers. Usually, one of the killers is a female who's I mean, Amber is tiny. I mean, she's what, 5'5". I mean, she's like a stick insect. Like the idea that she could overpower anyone is just utterly ridiculous. I mean, Dewey, I know Dewey's like sort of, he's had his issues, but he's still like, what, 5'10", probably like, 170 pounds with a bad leg. Doesn't matter. Um, Ben says, 3 people watch Dewey goes favourite while helping him. Ben, what's up, man? I wasn't even shyly sure if I acknowledged you before, but what's up, man? I'm seeing a picture of the insurance my light. That's very good. I think I've got most of the chat now. Chad's live. Okay, yeah, I wasn't sure because they didn't really make it very clear. Chad was attacked outside. We think he's died. And at the very end of the film, you get a very, very brief glimpse of someone, and I just blink and you'll miss it. You would not know that Chad had survived if you hadn't just very, very. If you weren't looking at the specific spot, and I was focusing on the screen, and even I was like, "Was that Chad? I can't be sure." Lon says, "We need a beer. Come back." Yeah, that was another. Coming from like a drinking culture, like in the UK, we just like drink ridiculous amounts of alcohol. Going down, we need more beers. You come back with what? If this was England or Scotland, certainly Scotland, that entire refrigerator would be getting dragged up the stairs. In fact, it wouldn't even be in the basement. The refrigerator would just be in the hallway because everyone would be getting fucking wasted instantly. So that was just completely ridiculous. I was just like, what the fuck? He's smart enough not to go upstairs, but yeah, he was being a smart ass as well, wasn't he? He was being like, I'm not going to go upstairs and have sex, but I'm going to go out. Yeah, I mean, okay, well, yeah, you go and do. Why do you have to do this, Lon? I'm thinking this. I'm trying to look at this like logically. Well, not logically. I'm trying to look at this maybe illogically and trying to enjoy the film. I'm trying to look at it with a slightly realistic lens, but then you have to go and point out some really, really obvious things. Yeah. And that's Ben, actually. It's not even Lorne. Oh my God. I just read the comments. I didn't even look at Ben. I just thought that's Lorne commenting because it's such a negative comment. And it's not even Lorne, it's Ben. So, yeah, good point, Ben. Lorne probably would make exactly the same comment. Ben says they did reflect the Drew Barrymore kill with Steph. Yeah, they did. There's quite a few areas from which were replicated. Where she's running goes for Casper did the same with him. All makes aside, it's a better shot than any of us in the series, including the results. Ooh, that's a hot topic there. Better shot net than any of us, including the original. Ooh, that's fighting talk there, Lord. That is fighting talk. I would not agree with you on that one. For me, Scream 1. No, Scream 1 Scream 1's the king. I like the film. I like this film, but no, Scream 1's the king for me. This pushes 2 for like second best film. I certainly think this is better than 3 and 4. Going into like let's go into the final now, the finale. So Chad is attacked, not killed, apparently, which I missed. Amber. Now this is an issue. For me, Amber reveals herself. Speak slower. I think she reveals herself as a killer slightly too soon. I don't like the "Hello Sydney" when we already know who the killers are. I did not like that. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but at the point where I was waiting for the iconic, "Hello Sydney," I was waiting for that, and from what I can remember, which was like 4 hours ago, Amber and Richie had already revealed themselves as the killers. So that kind of takes it away a little bit from the Hello Sydney, because the Hello Sydney line is iconic, and we should not know who the killer or killers are. I think that was a big mistake. The Hello Sydney line should have come way earlier in the film, at least half an hour earlier. I did not like that at all. But yeah, in terms of like the reveal of Liv, it wasn't really a surprise. I mean, she was kind of like the most obvious, but least obvious, because you're always with Scream looking for the least obvious killer. But Liv kind of was, not Liv, sorry, Amber, sorry. Amber was kind of like the most obvious. She was kind of like, came across as like the most slightly psychotic, like little bit deranged maybe. And maybe when you do that and you do put someone forward as potentially that deranged, not deranged, maybe she wasn't deranged, but maybe going overboard with her possibly being a killer, and then she is. It at this point, it's anybody could be. With 4 films down the line, you're never quite sure who it could be. I say with Richie, it was the first time I'd ever spotted the killer in the film before the reveal. I'm so fucking stupid. But with Amber, I thought, yes, this is definitely a potential. And the reason I thought Liv was because she played like a slightly lesser role. But the reveal of Amber, and then I say slightly too soon for my liking, and she obviously shoots Gail and aims for Sydney, and then they make their way into the house. I would have preferred like the reveal to be in the house and not out there. And obviously Richie reveals himself, a few minutes later. And I think a lot of people were pushing for like Sam to be revealed as the killer. And there was even a hint that it could be Liv, like as if like Liv, how could Liv be the killer? Like they were even pushing that as a possible, she could be she was, I mean, okay, I understand, like at the end of Scream 1, Stu and Billy stab themselves in the side slightly. Liv is like stabbed multiple times, has a leg broken. Like, in what possible universe could she be in on the killings? So yeah, she was out of the equation. I never believed it could be Sam. For me, it was always good. I'd spotted Richie, a mile off. So for me, it was coming down to Liv and not Liv. Sorry, God, you've seen Liv. Fucking hell. It was definitely coming down to Amber and Jesus Christ, I've forgotten her name again. What's the name of Chad's girlfriend? Judy. Is Judy? Hang on, was it Judy? Is Judy the black girl or is Judy the white girl? I've totally lost track now because who's Chad's sister? Was Chad's sister Judy or was it? Oh, sorry. So no, Judy. Yeah, Judy. Mindy is Chad's sister. Oh my God. Remind me not to watch a film and try and do like a critique of it like an hour, like 2 hours after watching it. So Mindy survives. Judy dies. Judy was a suspect for me because of I probably got the names completely wrong in the past 10 minutes. But yeah, so Judy was a potential suspect because she didn't do that much in the film. So Chad survives and Mindy survives as well. Yeah, Mindy survives. Going into the finals, oh my God, this just broke me. This trying to remember everyone's name. The final reveal in terms of I don't know what you guys think in terms of they were this. Now this film to me is not being woke to a point. The final 10 minutes. Am I missing something? Does it get a little bit woke? Is a lot of terminology maybe it's anti-woke or maybe it's pro-woke. I'm not quite. It just seems to be a little bit like a lot of terminology gets bandied around in the final 10 minutes toxic fandom. It almost feels like, I could be wrong, but is this film at the end critiquing us as fans, maybe having a pop at us, like, because it does reference, at the end, people like us, we do get in message boards, we do get on YouTube, we do get on Twitter, we do get on Facebook, and we do, and they mention the ridiculousness of Sydney still being alive, which is something we've all said. Now, is this film just being clever and just playing back to us whatever we said, or is it? See, yeah, Dr. Cedar, this is kind of what I was thinking it may be getting at. And I was thinking, is it just me? It did feel a little bit preachy at the end. And this film has done a good job up until this point, more or less, of not being woke. And I had my doubts with because Scream 4, 2011, the world is a different place. And the world has changed a lot in the last 5 years. And I was terrified of this becoming like some sort of like ultra woke show. And it avoided that. But in the last 10 minutes, there's the spiel that Richie and Amber were like reeling off. It kind of it did feel a little bit preachy. I don't know whether it's just me, but it's in this day and age, it seems to be like the in thing to just like go after like the fandom, and just like go after the people who support your product. But with it being Scream, it could just be literally just what they've always done, and they've always done this sort of thing. So I'm not going to be judgmental on it. I'll keep an open mind. Hope it wasn't what I think it was, because they are. This final monologue wasn't really that much different from what the final monologues of the past. So it could just be a monologue of like modern culture. But hopefully it wasn't a little dig at us guys, because at the end of the day, who's going to see these films? It's us. And horror films, this is the last. Horror films are the last bastion of anti-wokeness. If at the moment, like horror movies, horror fiction, anything like that just gives into the woke brigade, then it's over. So we need to fight it. Anyway, that's it, mate. That's it. Everyone in the chat, it's 1:10. I need to go to bed. But yeah, that is my sort of breakdown of Scream 5, my thoughts. I wasn't going to give it a mark, but you know what? I watched Dan. I watched Flesh Room Features. I watched you guys critiquing it before, and I'm with you, man. I think it's a 3.5 out of 5. It's a solid entry into the franchise. Not up there with 1, in my opinion. Not up there with 2. But that's nostalgia playing into it a little bit. I think with 2, not with 1, because 1's a Stone Cold classic. Maybe with 2, nostalgia's kicking in a little bit. But I think it's a solid film. It's certainly better than 3, and it's better than 4, no doubt. But anyway, I'm gonna go now, guys. I'm just gonna say goodbye to everyone in the chat. Everyone who's supported me tonight. Dr. C. Def, not seen you in the chat before, man. Hopefully you subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Lorne, as always, thank you, man. Dan, as always, thank you. Ben, as always. Who have we got? I'm sure a few people jumped on as well. Sean, what's up, man? Thank you for jumping on as always. I think DJ was in the chat earlier on as well. DJ was there. Yeah, DJ was there as well. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time with another video. Peace out.